to item K3, report of the District Teachers Association representatives. That report is going to be delivered by Mr. Childress and Ms. Mack, Craig, and Rachel. I'm sorry, Linda wants me to use first names.
That's no problem.
So go on, it's all yours.
Okay, great, thank you. Good evening, President Friedman, members of the board, district cabinet. I speak today on behalf of the 520 plus teachers of our district who, when asked to choose between starting the school year with a blended model that brought students into classrooms masked and separated for a few days a week, or planning to start the school year with a robust synchronous distance learning program, starkly different from what we experienced this spring, a resounding majority, a full 2/3 of teachers felt starting the semester with synchronous distance learning was the wisest choice. If you scan the 300 plus names on a petition that circulated this week for starting school with synchronous DL, you will see that the support is not just from older teachers or teachers with underlying health conditions. When presented with a detailed analysis of the nuances and the nuts and bolts of the two models, teachers young and old, those with families at home and without families at home, teachers with their own children in the district, special education teachers, counselors, ELD teachers, and others, all believe that starting the school semester with distance learning is the most responsible option. As educators and community members who care passionately about serving kids and families, the teachers in this district made their choice for multiple reasons. First, for the safety of our students, our employees, and their families. As an institution serving 9,000 students with 1,000 employees and all their families in San Mateo County, we have a tremendous responsibility to do first no harm and then to be focused at all times on our role in affecting the risk they face while engaged in learning. As a society, we may not agree on the risk assessment or in some startling developments, the role of scientific evidence. However, what I think we all can agree upon is that we do not know with any certainty where we will be in terms of this pandemic in 8 weeks. And we certainly know much more than we did 8 weeks ago in terms of the role of masks, aerosol transmission, the difference between indoor and outdoor air, surfaces, the role of indoor time and spaces. We must admit that we cannot claim to know what the fall will look like or what we will understand. In a June 1 statement describing easing restrictions of the shelter-in-place order, San Mateo County Health Officer Scott Morrow stated, "These modifications are an attempt to find a way to increase the immunity of the population slowly and methodically. These modifications are not being made because it's safe to go out and about." He continues, "The virus will circulate and continue to circulate in our community, and the increase in infections among people that these modifications allow is likely to spread it at a higher rate. It is not completely safe to go out. It is even less safe to attend gatherings of any size." I first ask you, should the district's actions as an educational institution contribute to this grand experiment? Does that match our commitment to the 10,000 families in our district? Furthermore, in his statement on June 1, then if that's his statement on June 1, then how is it that we are here on June 11th, planning for anything other than a distance learning model when there are other risk-neutral methods for delivering our essential service? This is not to say that the instructional model won't evolve over the fall as will the outlook for public health in our area. Starting with distance learning, however, positions us well to have flexibility to act when it truly becomes safer to move forward to normalcy. Additionally, nearly all experts acknowledge that the likelihood of a second wave for this fall is inevitable. So it is irresponsible to not be prepared to seamlessly move forward and backward in response to these changing public health conditions. Teachers also selected a distance learning model to start in terms of pedagogy and facilitating the most meaningful learning experience for kids in light of this pandemic. We believe it represents the best use of our time, our resources, our energy to support students in this volatile situation. Distance learning offers more direct instruction for students and does not seemingly wastefully use the majority of teachers' time repeating lessons to small groups, as is the case for all blended models. With distance learning, the curriculum moves forward synchronously every day and does not have to be truncated. We also must be honest about the quality of the proposed in-person instruction that looks so drastically different from what we and parents know. A model dependent on masked students sitting motionless to keep 6 feet apart in rows facing only forward for 80 minutes will not provide an opportunity for the rich conversations and interactive experiences our students are used to. However, with time to plan distance learning and permission to use synchronized formats, collaborative work, facilitated conversations in breakout rooms, group presentations, and other authentic learning strategies are all possible. Unfortunately, what you will not hear from the district tonight is a proposal that represents what the majority of its professional educators believe is the most responsible way to start the semester in terms of safety and pedagogy. Instead, the district published a committee proposal with a blended model that included a quarter system on Monday, abandoned it on Wednesday when backlash erupted, and has now scrambled to incorporate into its own proposal this evening a model developed by a small group of San Mateo High School teachers, a group disillusioned and frustrated by the process and outraged by the possibility of a quarter system. This group's frustration and desire to develop an alternative speaks to flaws in a process that does not effectively draw on teacher expertise. That said, and with all due respect, this new proposal with limited review by stakeholders and not for more than one day simply does not reflect the position of the majority of the teachers in this district. Additionally, it presents many of our same concerns about safety and the quality of the learning experience. All this is to say that refusing to consider a 100% synchronous distance learning model to start the semester simply disregards teacher voice and expertise and promotes hopeful thinking instead of responsible planning. We all wish this pandemic was not happening, but that doesn't mean it's responsible to act like it is not. We urge the board to consider the option that provides the best balance between safety and flexibility for the future. We believe that option is synchronous distance learning. The choices we make today will allow us to make better choices in moving forward. Thank you, and I'll yield my time to Rachel.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Mack, and I'm a counselor at Mills. I'm also the counseling department co-chair, a Ledge Council rep, and a member of the Bell Schedule Committee. And probably most importantly, I'm also a parent. My daughter graduated last year from Mills, and my son's now in middle college. So first, I just want to acknowledge that this past semester was really rough for a lot of our students. Not only were they cut off from school socially, but dozens of students told me that it was really frustrating academically. A lot of my students felt lost trying to figure out Canvas on their own, and they really missed meeting together with their teachers and classmates. And as I reflect on why it was so hard, I think a big reason was that teachers were instructed not to hold online classes together in real time because there were some concerns that students might not be able to access it. But unfortunately, that limitation turned out to be really frustrating and isolating for both teachers and students. They hardly had any opportunities to connect with each other. So now here we are, and I think a lot of us are feeling like anything is better, right, than what we had. Like we're just desperate to get our kids back to school in person. The hope being that if they go back to school, they'll have more access to their teachers and their peers and to live instruction. But before we jump back into attending school in person, there's something that I think a lot of people might not be aware of, something that I haven't even really heard anyone talking about in my committee meetings that just struck me last week. So as you know, if we start back in person, we're going to have to cut class sizes by at least half. So classes that are typically 35 are going to be down to 18, maybe even 12. And I think what a lot of us haven't realized is that any blended model that limits class sizes automatically cuts direct instructional minutes by at least 50% and possibly more. I'm going to repeat that. Any blended model, no matter how great it is, that limits class sizes automatically cuts direct instructional minutes by at least half, possibly up to 66%. And by direct instructional minutes, I'm talking about how much time teachers and students can spend together in real time, whether it's in person or virtually, where students can ask questions and teachers can give feedback, and where students can spend time interacting with each other as well. By cutting down class sizes, we're actually ending up with a system that is incredibly inefficient. It's just math. If you divide a class by 2, teachers have to spend twice the amount of time to teach the same number of students. And with blended learning models, our students are likely only to see each teacher in each class once a week, maybe a little bit more depending on the schedule. Now, I know some people might say, that's fine, but teachers can prepare online curriculum, right, for students to work on days that they're not at school. Teachers can like flip their classroom. But while teachers are spending most of their day teaching in person and recycling the same lessons over and over again, Realistically, will they also have time to prepare online screencasts for students at home? And I've been thinking, like, realistically, that's probably not how it's going to work out. I think at the end, students are just going to probably end up with a lot more homework. And I crunched the numbers to make up for that lost instructional time. Students could end up with like 20 to 25 hours of homework a week that they're doing by themselves without a teacher's support, without connecting with their peers online. In contrast with a remote learning model, because teachers can teach up to 35 students at a time, that provides the potential for more time for teachers and students to engage with each other in real time. And teachers can really focus on strengthening their curriculum and providing individual support. So all of this begs the question, with the blended learning model, is it worth building this amount of inefficiency into our system just in order for students to be able to physically attend each class once a week? So after realizing all this on Monday, I did something for the first time in my life. I started a petition. Okay, this is something I've never done before. I sent out an analysis to teachers breaking down the pros and cons between the blended and distance learning models. And it turned into a petition inviting all of you to please consider starting the school year with a synchronous distance learning model. And to my honest surprise, since Monday, it's actually gained over 300 signatures, mostly teachers, but now parents are starting to sign as well. And here's our basic request. Can we plan to start the school year with remote learning, at least for one semester? We've got 67 days between now and the first day of school. So over the next 67 days, are we going to focus all our energy on like overhauling all our systems to implement these like crazy disease prevention measures? Or are we going to focus on what we're actually good at, which is providing the best possible teaching and learning? And if you notice, I haven't once mentioned anything about COVID. I'm just talking about learning. And the last time I checked, learning is the core mission of our schools, not the ability to physically sit together in the same room. Learning is our core mission. So what if we start now focusing all our energy on developing the best, most effective remote learning plan? Because even if we start in person, there's a strong chance we might end up needing to go back to remote learning at any minute, right? So let's get good at remote learning. Once we have a solid remote learning system, that will then give us the flexibility to layer on in-person learning when it makes sense to do so, and eventually return to 100% in-person learning. The other bonus is if we wait a little bit longer to come back in person, we're buying some time to make sure that we can come back safely and in a way that makes sense from an instructional standpoint. And if we rush into this never before attempted like blended learning model before we're ready, I'm really worried that we could end up with like a potentially disastrous outcome, both from an educational standpoint and from a health and safety standpoint. So to conclude, Board of Trustees, Dr. Skelly, on behalf of over 300 teachers, staff, parents, and students in our district who signed our petition, we officially request that you start this fall semester with a strong, well-planned, synchronous remote learning model in order to maximize both learning and safety for all of our students. Thank you for your time.